Happy Monday, everybody. Lazlow Carmichael here for Lazlab. I just wanted to do my quick take on this article titled Appeals Court Temporarily Halts Protections for Journalists and Legal Observers in Portland. So, a quick rundown on this article is that last week there was a ruling that journalists and legal observers were exempt from federal officers' physical force, arrest, or other treatment if the officers reasonably know that a person is a journalist or legal observer. So, however, this ruling was overturned on the grounds that the initial ruling was too broad. Given the order's breadth and lack of clarity, particularly in its non-exclusive indixia, definition, of who qualifies as journalists and legal observers, appellants have also demonstrated that, in the absence of a stay, the order will cause irreparable harm to law enforcement efforts and personnel. This means that journalists could be subjected to the same physical force as that of the individuals participating. So, there's two things here that I can play a devil's advocate role for. Firstly, we are in the age of change when it comes to media, how media is recorded, how it's consumed, but most importantly, who records it. Now, we have so many citizen journalists out now that, as a lawyer, I would argue that we really do need to change the definition of what a journalist is and what a legal observer is. Now, I'm not familiar with the current legal definitions of these two categories, and there are others like medic, I'm sure. But now with so many journalists and I use this term strictly, journalists, people providing actual non-biased information. You see a lot of those people on Twitch streams and YouTube and Periscope. They're bringing it to you live. However, they're just citizens at this point, as far as I know. So therefore, they wouldn't actually be provided any kind of protection. You know, how do you get a press pass? Things like that. Is that what you need to be considered a journalist? So those are my questions there from that position. My second position here is no one can reasonably know who is a protester or who is a journalist or one of these other not protected, protected roles would be the word for it. Sure, you can put something on a hat, you can put a vest on that says medic, anything like that. However, this is being abused. This is being abused by subversive demonstrators who are wearing these kind of symbols stating that they are press. That's the one you see the most often. You see these people on these live streams that have press written all over them, but here they are actively demonstrating. My issue with this is, well, it's fairly obvious what my issue with this is. I'll tell you why. Maybe back in the day, there were unspoken rules, I guess, when it came to demonstrators, and I think in a lot of instances police too, and courts and things like that, in which there would be unbiased individuals that would go there to these demonstrations and record things as they should. All of this needs to be documented so everyone can see things. So that used to afford them maybe not necessarily legal protections, but a lot of times those roles were respected because that's just how the game was played. All right, that dude has press all over him. We'll kind of let it slide. Now that does still happen today. I think Tim Pool has mentioned times where he has been rounded up but said he was press, and quickly been allowed out of the situation. But it's clear with everything we're seeing, all this live stream documentation, it's clear that those roles are not being respected by the demonstrators. Now, I don't know if it was respected in the past. It could have just gone unnoticed. The big problem with this, and this is an actual problem, is that it hurts the optics of the movement in which the demonstrators are abusing that privilege. All right? For instance, you can have someone that completely disagrees with a particular agenda of a certain group that might be demonstrating. However, everybody wants freedom for the press, generally. I'd say more often than not. What do you think these people will do if they support the press freedoms, but then see demonstrators in your movement abusing that? They're instantly going to want nothing to do with your movement. They're not going to listen to anything you will say because your movement has been tainted. The people that watch the news, they will no longer trust your movement because they're abusing those press privileges that were kind of unspoken. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I'll come up with a good closing at some point, I don't know. Still new to this. Anyway, take care.